Hey,
Hi, Albert.
Hi, how you doing, Aaron?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you. I got to see South of Heaven, and I really liked it. I felt like it was a big breakthrough for Jason Sudeikis. I'm used to seeing him in comedies, and to see him in a more serious fashion here, I think he did an excellent job. And the movie altogether, it was great. It was smoothly paced. I just enjoyed the film overall.
Thank you so much. Great to hear that.
So,
Yeah, Jason is amazing.
so my first question is, how did the where did you come up with the idea for the film?
Uh, During my honeymoon, of all places, I got married at a very late age of 37, and my wife was then 39. And when you're marrying that old in Israel, you feel that you have to compensate for 20 years of not being together, and you try to live your 20s together at the age of 37 and 39. So we went on a very, very long honeymoon, almost 6 months, around the world. And then it hit me that when you marry that late and you try to do so much stuff in so little time, this disproportionate love story, disproportionate honeymoon, and it hit me that I wanted to write a movie about a guy who comes out of jail after 12 years, dying the fiance, and he just wants to give her, that one great last year to compensate for everything he stole from her. And I had it up to the moment where he has that car accident. I think that I cannot, like in real life, I'm just a romantic and I love happy endings, but I think that when I write, it's like I wrote, because Wilson Rabies, I always look for the dark things. So I couldn't just let him, have a romantic comedy with Jason Sudeikis and Evangeline. I had to have Jimmy Ray, in an accident with a biker, and then get him into a world of pain. But just that's how my head works when I write. I always tap into the darkness. I cannot stay in the more bright hues of optimism.
Right, and I think it worked here. I mean, for Jimmy, it was supposed to be about redemption, but yet he finds himself in a situation similar to what he dealt with before. And what I really liked was that he's at odds with Mike Coulter's character, and I love that he brought something fresh to that because, Mike Coulter just came off of Luke Cage a couple of years ago. He still has that toughness to him, and I like that Michael Pare was in on it as well. It must have been great to work with all these great actors.
It was like, for me as a guy who started as a film critic and a guy who taught theory at the university, I never even dreamt of directing a movie in Hebrew, let alone find myself with, Jason Sudeikis, Evangeline Coulter, Pare, Shea Wiggum, Jerry Bob, a couple of years later. So yeah, for me it was an amazing ride with people, and specifically these actors that came to give you everything they got in a very modest, movie. 25 days of shoot, very low budget, and they just came because of the story, and they came to give you everything they got. And I learned so much from the collaboration with them because they are all the kind of actors that read the characters you wrote for them, and then they have great notes, and they take you on a journey to, make a more profound film and a deeper layered movie. And I honestly learned so much of all these guys. And again, and for me also as a director, I really wanted to play with their, personas. Like you said, Michael Terry's Luke Cage, but I wanted him to be this, for me it's always about the gray areas, right? Right? Even in Big Bad Wolf, I like to play with, bad guy. Is he really a bad guy? Is he really a good guy? Probably a bad guy when he goes home. He has a family, as a kid. He wants the best for him. Even if he's a kingpin, you might want him to have a different future than the one he has, right? So when I write, I always tap into those areas where everybody has a family. That's how I operate as a writer. Everybody has a family, and everybody is somebody's son or father or daughter or mother, and that's usually how I write characters. So while working with people like Coulter and I just knew I wanted to give him Price because Price is such a great entity because he starts as this menacing villain with a bigger than life torture scene, but then you just get to see him in his house talking to, the woman he just, kidnapped, and it becomes a whole different Price for you. And again with Jason, Jason up until the moment when I cast him, he didn't even do Ted Lasso yet, so he usually made romantic comedies. But then I saw some glimpses of darkness when I saw Colossal, and I wanted to tap into those moments even more because I saw a dramatic ability that has he has like this great humanity and fragility. When you talk to him, I wanted to tap into those places, and I wanted to take him, into his more brooding persona, and it was a great voyage for me as a filmmaker.
That's awesome, and I'm noticing that now. It's like back in the old days, it was always just good guys and bad guys. Now we could say more protagonists and antagonists because, like you said yourself, the so-called good guys and bad guys, they both can tap into any side, and then the whole family dynamic plays in, and I think that's something is more realistic nowadays rather than what we're used to seeing back in the old days of movies when it was just good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. Now it's more like, are they really bad guys? Are they really good guys? Who's what? And I think it's a good thing. I really think it's a really good thing. It brings more realism to what we have in the real world.
Because in the real world everything is it's relative, right? Because you could be the good guy in your own story, but you could be the bad guy in another person's story. And the best tip about writing a villain in a movie is to have your hero needs to be the villain in his story, because that's how the villain sees it, right? The villain sees the hero. Like if you're tapping into Alan Rickman in Die Hard, John McClane ruins his night. John McClane ruins his plan, and that's why. Hans Gruber is one of the greatest, villains in cinema.
Oh, hands down, yes.
You play him because you write him as a good guy. He thinks he's a good guy. He just said, "Well, I can't believe this. Roy Rogers is ruining my, my big night of stealing stuff." And when you see the world from that perspective, it's easier to write bad guys and good guys because the good guy thinks he's right, the bad guy thinks he's right. But then you mash it all in one movie, and I really. While writing, stuff about him, I went to the max with that perspective, like showing how a good guy could really become the villain in, the villain's life.
Right.
And create even a villain as a victim in this movie.
Exactly. So what was the most difficult thing about the production, if there was any?
Well, shooting 25 days, it's really... It's harsh because you have lots of location, you have lots of you have big action scenes at the end. One of them it's a long take, but you need to do in one shot without cut, and you have lots of camera positions for that cabin sequence, and you need to do it all in 25 days. So I think that